Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is another edition of the Not So Slick Opinion podcast. This is your boy Slick Rick. This is a psycho edition. I am cycling at the moment. If you're wondering, it's not a screensaver. Those are real trees. It's a real sky. It's been a while that I released a episode like this. I haven't been on the low or anything. Haven't been sad or depressed or anything. Don't worry. I'm not gonna do what you think I'm gonna do and flip out, man. No, that's not me. So, yeah, it's Friday. It's a beautiful day today. Excuse me while I change some gears while I go uphill. Yeah, man, it's been a crazy July, August. It's crazy, man. A lot of stuff's been happening. I'm getting out of breath. We're trying to stay healthy. I went vegetarian / vegan. I went vegetarian for 2 weeks. I went vegan for about 6 days. So, damn, I'm really out of breath right now. But that was a good experience for me, going vegetarian / vegan. It wasn't my first time going vegetarian. I've actually done it. This would have been, I want to say, the third time in my life that I went vegetarian. When I was younger, I lived with my dad in Mexico for about 2 years, and he's a vegetarian / pescatarian. So I remember not eating meat as a kid, but I remember eating a lot of fish and stuff. So growing up as an adult, I got real heavy. Well, let me start this off. As a kid, I wasn't always a skinny kid. In Mexico, I was a skinny kid. Obviously eating more organic foods out there. But coming to America, obviously, and I don't say, oh, I'm coming to America like this is my second home. No, this is my first home. I was born in America, born in Cali, Cali. Left for 2 years and then came back. But basically, I wasn't a fat kid growing up. I always remember being chunky, slow metabolism most of the time, but I wasn't always a big person. You know what I mean? I've always had chicken arms. You know what I mean? Skinny arms, chicken legs, chicken leg gang, and stuff like that. But I was never a pudgy kid. I was never a fat kid. I was always pudgy, chunky, and even going into like middle school, I wasn't skinny. I was, you could say I was a little husky, not too husky, you know what I mean? But middle school, I didn't really eat a lot of fatty foods, because my mom growing up, she always believed that you should always eat healthy because, even in the 90s and early 2000s, they always said, eat healthy, eat your veggies and all that other stuff. So, middle school, I started thinning out, but I was actually outside playing more. I was, active. I was always with my friends growing up. And then in high school, I tried out for like the basketball team, and then I was trying out for all these sports. I didn't make any sports, but the true passion I had in high school was band. I played the trumpet. I had played the trumpet since I want to say, 11 years old, all the way through 16 years old. I played the trumpet. So, not making sports, I was still active because in band, they don't really say this, but if you take high school band after school, they would. Some students had no PE for freshman year, and instead had band. But I had both. But obviously marching band after school, I would have to run about 2 miles a day before we did band practice, which is nuts because you don't think you need a lot of endurance, to be in marching band, but it is what it is. So I stayed active, and then I started like walking more. As a teenager, back in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, 2005, those are the years those are my teenage years where I was always going places with my friends and stuff like that. So I was always walking around, me and my friends living in Corona, everything was spread out. So you would have to walk literally a half a mile for the nearest store, or we would walk to the movies, which would be like 2 to 3 miles, which is crazy. As an adult, talking about it now, it's like, damn, 3 miles I was walking. Now I could barely walk a mile without freaking feet hurting and shit. But it's crazy how, I used to walk a lot then. And then me and my friends would always play like two-hand touch football on the streets, and we'd play for hours and hours and hours, you know what I mean? And that's crazy because now you don't see kids outside as much. You don't see them, you'll see kids on scooters and bikes, but I remember always playing football in the streets, or go to City Hall because they had a big parking lot, playing football there, and everything was always fine. You know what I mean? Everything was always fine then. Nowadays, you don't see as many kids out and about, and I get it. It's a more dangerous world now. Depending on your race or depending on any little thing, child predators, which is crazy because there's always been pedophiles in history. And just growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, it's like we didn't worry about that shit, you know what I mean? Like we never had that in the back of our minds, but yeah, you saw it in the streets, on the news and stuff like that. So it's crazy, and I get it. And then now, fast food is a big thing. Fast food is cheaper than going to get groceries. I know I get groceries all the time, and I'm just always thinking like, damn, this is just so crazy, you know what I mean? It's just so crazy. So it's being active now, it's crazy, but they have a lot of races and stuff for kids nowadays, which is dope. They have a lot of kid events that are good, but yeah, I kind of sidetracked there. But my metabolism, like in middle school and high school, I was my sophomore year, I was more active than I was my freshman year, just because I got into more of weightlifting, and I was trying out for football my sophomore year. I actually made the bench my sophomore year, and obviously I had the attention from females and girls, so obviously always looking out to making sure that I'm running. I was running a lot back then. I was biking, not as much as I do now, but I was doing a lot of crunches, a lot of activities. So My sophomore year was, I want to say it was one of my best physical years that I've experienced, which is dope. So, speaking on that, I had a girlfriend and stuff like that. So always I'm like, I gotta run, I gotta do this, be in shape. But also making the football team was dope, and that's a different kind of cardio endurance that anybody thinks about, except for athletes. So my sophomore year was pretty dope. My junior year, something happened. Well, throughout this whole time, I had my first job in 8th grade holding signs. So like, I was always working, you know what I mean? So having time to exercise and stuff was hard, because working now and then going to the gym as an adult is hard. Like, you don't want to do it, right? Imagine being a teenager, going to school for, 6-7 hours, and then going to work, 3 hours after school, and then coming home, playing, football with my friends and my brother. And it was just crazy, crazy stuff that I think about now. It's like, man, I would get out of work before this quarantine, be tired, hit the gym a little bit, and then by the time I get home, I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how in high school I could do it like nothing and have time for a girlfriend. Now it's like, damn, if I had a girlfriend, I would have to give her time too. But obviously you gotta deal what you gotta deal with, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's crazy. And then after my junior year, summer of my junior year or my senior year, basically, I had to move out of Corona. We got evicted from our apartments and stuff. Crazy story. I moved to, Moreno Valley with my grandma for like a month, actually a few weeks. I didn't like it there. Ended up moving to Duarte, which is crazy, because it's where I was born at. My family lived here for a while, and it was just crazy, But my mom passing away in June of my senior year, or I'm sorry, the year after my senior year. So it was like, my senior year I got a little chunky. I wasn't doing as much. I went to a continuation school, and I got into some bad habits like smoking weed and stuff like that, drinking all the time, eating out of time because I didn't have a parent there and stuff like that. My mom lived in Moreno Valley, and I was going to school in Duarte, so it's like I wasn't seeing her a lot, so I was eating out a lot. I was working too, so it was easier to go get food instead of cooking, you know what I mean? As a 17-year-old, it's crazy, you know what I mean? But then, once my mom passed away, I kind of got in a depression mode. I probably talked about it in my one of my last episodes of the podcast. But, I got depressed, and, I was eating a lot, drinking a lot of soda, just to, like, I don't know, I don't remember what was going on in my head then. I wish I could go back and just have a glimpse of what was going on in my head, because, obviously I'm not depressed anymore. Like, I've been through there, I've hit rock bottom, but, like, now it's just, if I ever come about a bad situation, I know how to handle it more. I'll breathe and take some deep breaths and just like look back and be like, all right, what can I do to not get into that mode again? You know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people that have been getting depressed, and trying to help them out. They can't get out of that depression because they're all in their head. You know what I mean? They're all up in here. They don't stop and think about what they're gonna do, or how they can fix the situation. But I'm not, like, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, I conquered it, because it's hard. Even for me, even being 31 years old, it's hard for me not to feel sad, not to feel down, you know what I mean? But, maybe it's just something in me, like a disorder, I don't know. Like, I never thought of myself like being, having anxiety or anything, I just think being more frustrated than anything is what happens to me. But, it's hard picking yourself back up from depression, or just being in a low state, you know what I mean? Because for me, it was, not having a parent in my life and losing the only parent that really raised me, because my dad was only in my life for 2 years. And that was when, I don't know if anybody knows the story, but he kidnapped me from my mom. So, looking back on that, it's crazy to think, like, I want to know what's going in my head, you know what I mean? So losing that one parent was just pretty devastating for myself. And just looking back on it, I wish I could have handled it better than I did, but we all have to go through things a certain way to get to that next step of being a better human, you know what I mean? And sometimes it gets hard, even to then, you know what I mean? I'll think about my mom, and I won't be like too down, but it'll kind of bring my mood down to where, like, all right, I do miss my mom and stuff like that, but it's just a test from God, from Jesus, whatever you want to say, the higher power, the higher energy. It's just a test to becoming an adult. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, you have to lose somebody to become an adult, or to, to take that next step of being an adult. You know what I mean? Everybody always has a test. It doesn't have to be losing somebody or moving out on your own. That, I know people that move out on their own and they still rely on their parents for certain things, or they're always at their parents' house doing laundry. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I've been on my own, and not living on my own, but I've been on my own responsibilities since I was 18. For 13 years, I've been literally adulting. And it's hard because, the first 6-7 years, I was still being not an adult. I was still being childish, doing stupid shit, not behaving right, not doing stuff. And that sounds childish, you know what I mean? Like me telling myself I'm not behaving right, so it takes a while, but everybody has to take that next step to become an adult. It's hard. It's very difficult for sure. But I think everybody could do it. I always hear stories. I was reading this story not too long ago about some teenagers that lost brother and sister that lost their parents, and they lost their parents about 5 years ago, and they checked up on them recently, and they're literally doing so much positive stuff for themselves, for their community. And it's a trip how you read stuff about that, and when you read stuff like that, you don't expect a good outcome like that, because I've heard about adults, grown adults losing an aunt, losing a mom, losing a dad, and then it affects them a lot harder than it would somebody that would have lost that family member, at a younger age. You know what I mean? Like, I know someone that lost their mom when they were in their 30s, and they went into straight depression mode. They had to be admitted into a mental hospital because they were just doing all the bad things. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because I think back, like, what if my mom would have passed away at a later age? Would I have taken it harder than I did when I was 18? And would I have been able to overcome it as fast as I did? So basically, yeah, man, I just rambled for a whole thing about my mom, which is dope. It's dope. I'm glad I did it, but it's just crazy to think back. Like, we only have one life, you know what I mean? And we gotta make this life a good one. You gotta eat healthy, exercise, live life. That's what people don't understand. So you gotta live life to the fullest, you know? So, yeah, crazy shit. This is your boy Slick Rick with the Not So Slick Opinion Cycle Podcast. Thanks for listening and watching. Deuces.